What's up, people? Goofy here, and I'm gonna bet that you've come across a moment like this before. One day, I was playing one of my favorite fan-made projects, Super Smash Bros. Remix. Like normal, I was clapping a level 10 AI with my mad piano when suddenly, my brain riddled me something. What is Smash Remix? I've heard some people call it a ROM hack, but others call it a mod. No, not like a Discord mod, this kind of mod. Yeah, that. So this begged the question. What's the difference? The two terms seem so similar that you couldn't blame someone for using them interchangeably. At first glance, it really depends on who you ask. Some will say they do mean the same, but that's not exactly true. I mean, for instance, you don't hear players saying that they're gonna play some Skyrim ROM hacks. They're gonna play some Skyrim mods. Clearly, there is a difference. Some will say that it has to do with the time of when the vanilla game was made. Changes to older games are called ROM hacks, and changes to newer games are called mods. This does make some sense, but again, there are huge exceptions. Projects for NFL Blitz, for example, typically aren't referred to as ROM hacks, but as mods. And yet the original NFL Blitz was made all the way back in 1997, and it's a ROM, so age doesn't seem to be the deciding factor either. There's a lot of observable trends in the type or age of a game that could lead it towards a modding or ROM hacking scene. But there always seems to be cases that contradict the definitions of these two terms. In reality, there doesn't seem to be a clear distinction between what makes a project a ROM hack and what makes it a mod, and that's what we're going to be trying to figure out today. I want to define what both of these terms mean, compare their definitions, and clear up any misconceptions around mods or ROM hacks to create a clear criteria for each of these categories. So with all that said, let's cut the riffraff and get this done. Before I started this script though, I took a look on the internet to see if somebody had beat me to the punch with this idea, and well, yeah, they did. Sources, and by that I mean the first result I got when I searched Google, seemed to be that the main difference between a mod and a ROM hack is the platform that the game was made for. If it was made for PC, it's a mod. If it was made for console or on a ROM, it's a ROM hack. Yet again, however, I contest that, because with how many ports and remasters and different editions of games that have been made over the years, there's bound to be some game out there that was both made on a ROM and for PC at some point, it was modded or hacked. What would you consider that, huh? So even though this question was already explored, I still wasn't satisfied because this definition just seemed to have way too many gray areas in certain contexts to be considered valid. Which is why I'm taking my own approach and using something that has always been one of my favorite tools while researching: a dictionary. As weird as this might sound, a dictionary is an instrumental tool at solving these kinds of problems because, in order to figure out the differences between mods and ROM hacks, we're gonna need to know what they mean, and while many of us may have an idea of their definitions, they might not be 100% accurate. Using a dictionary, however, can give us the definitions of these terms in a clear and concise manner because, well, duh, it's a dictionary. That's obviously its job. Okay, so let's start with a mod. What is a mod? Well, the word mod is actually short for the word modification, which, according to Oxford Languages, thank you Google, is simply put, a change that is made to something. And this doesn't just apply to video games either. Pretty much any change that was made to anything in any way is considered a mod. Like, say, I don't know, strapping a rocket to a golf club to make it swing faster can be considered a mod. A very weird analogy for the word, but you get the idea. Using this logic, we can conclude that all of these video game projects should be called mods, including ROM hacks. This means that, yes, technically a mod and a ROM hack are the same thing, just not all the time. Alright, Goofy, I hear a snide viewer saying to their phone screen, we get it, a mod is a change. Big whoop! I could have easily looked that up on my own. But how is that helpful for figuring out its differences from a ROM hack? And to that I say, be patient, my sweet summer child, because we still gotta define what a ROM hack is too. Now, despite the fact that both words in this term can be defined together, I think it'll be more effective if we break down this term and define the two words separately, starting with the word hack. Hack, both as a verb and as a noun, actually has a shit ton of possible definitions, from cutting with rough blows, i.e. the lumberjack hacks away at the tree trunk, to the informal term for a horse for hire, i.e. I bought a hack to ride to the track. Hey, that rhymed. Anyway, when a word has many definitions like this, context is key. And in the case of hacking video games, the most appropriate definition can be found in the Merriam-Webster dictionary as to write computer programs for enjoyment. Because as a person who has made a fair share of mods and ROM hacks, I can say that that is exactly what I think I'm doing when I'm making projects like Smash Kart, for example. It is a little wonky that we're using a definition of hack in the verb form when ROM hack is obviously a noun, but it's the best definition we have that isn't just illegally gaining access to a computer. Which I assure you is a completely different thing that I really wouldn't want to attempt to explain because number one, I don't know what I'm talking about in that area, and number two, I don't want to know what I'm talking about in that area because I'm not a hacker in that sense. So now we have our definition for a hack, but now it gets interesting, because we need to define what a ROM is. Let's see here. Oh, here we go. A member of a traditionally itinerant people who originated in northern India and now live chiefly in Europe and in smaller numbers throughout the world. Well, that doesn't sound right. Okay, actually, just like the word mod, a ROM is actually in a short form, and is an acronym to boot. Neat. ROM stands for read-only memory. Those of you who have taken computer programming classes might remember when your teacher discussed the differences of ROM and RAM. And I bring this up because it can actually help us define what a ROM is. See, RAM, just like ROM, is an acronym, and it stands for Random Access Memory. In most electronics, a RAM unit is used to store and recall short-term memory data, and this data is almost always temporary, with some obscure exceptions. If you're wondering why, in order to run Mortal Kombat 1 on your PC without it looking like the Switch version, you're recommended to have at least 8 GB of RAM, it's because of this very purpose. Big games like that have a lot, frankly too much, short-term data that it needs to store when it's running. And if you don't have this RAM capacity, it's either going to run very slowly, or not run at all. A ROM, on the other hand, like its full name suggests, is used for only reading permanent long-term memory data. This includes most, if not all, instructions in a program, which checks out for video games because that's essentially what they are. Just a big-ass series of instructions in a program. For games that came out before the digital era or the time of the internet, this is what they were stored on. Any game that you played via a cartridge or a CD or hell, even a floppy disk is considered to be stored on a ROM. Nowadays, though, games can be compiled in game engine software on a computer itself into a single executable. This is why most, nay all modern games are called ROMs because, you know, they're not stored in read-only memory. They're stored in their own executable program. Alright, now that we know what a ROM is and we know what a hack is, let's combine the two together and get our ultimate definition. A ROM hack is a computer program that changes the permanent long-term read-only memory data of the original program that is stored on said permanent long-term read-only memory data. Phew. Now, we've successfully defined what a mod is, and we did the same thing with a ROM hack. So let's compare their definitions and see what their real differences are. For starters, a ROM hack is actually a type of mod since it's changing the original game. A ROM hack also has to be a modification to the read-only memory of a game that is stored in said memory. This excludes any digital versions of games or games that are stored in standalone programs. What this includes are most games that are stored in a physical form, whether it be a cartridge, a disc, or some of the less recognized forms like an arcade cabinet. A mod, on the other hand, is a much broader term meant to describe any change to any game in any form. But the term mod should be exclusively used when talking about, you guessed it, any games that are digital or are a standalone program. So now that we have a pretty clear idea on what the differences between these two terms are, let's clear up some confusion with some examples. NFL Blitz mods like NFL Blitz 2023 should actually be called ROM hacks. While they are indeed mods, most of these projects do modify the read-only memory of the vanilla game, as our definition of a ROM hack states. I know this because most of these mods use a player editor program to change the name, appearance, and other information about players in the game. That's stored in read-only memory, thus, it's a ROM hack. Most mods of the classic Mortal Kombat games, MK the First, MK2, MK3, UMK3, whether it be played on Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, or any of the arcade versions, they should be called ROM hacks because, again, they're stored on read-only memory. Many of these mods, like Tournament Edition, do things like change up the look of the UI, add in unplayable characters from the original game, or change up the game's mechanics. This stuff is stored in a ROM, boom, ROM hack. Kart 64 and all of its subsequent mods should be called ROM hacks as well, since most of them modify and add content to the ROM. Bakkesmod, made for Rocket League, is aptly named because it's not modifying a ROM. Rocket League is its own program. Smash Remix, the very thing that caused me to make this video in the first place, should be called a ROM hack because it's modifying the ROM of the vanilla game. I could go through several more examples, but we would be here all day, so hopefully you get the idea. Herein lies another question though. Why is it that some of the creators of ROM hacks insist on calling them mods? Well, aside from the common misconceptions, this is only speculation on my part, but if I had to guess, it probably has to do with the word hack's connotation, or emotional attachment to said word. See, the word hack, by most people's reckoning when it comes to technology, is typically associated with some dweeb in a hood wearing a yo curly mustache mask, typing away on their POS laptop in a dark room, trying to steal as much information as they can to do, I don't know, evil things. But in reality, as I've stated before, hacking and a ROM hack are two completely different things. This makes the word hack have a bad connotation, which means it's associated with negative emotions like fear, anger, and sadness. That said, it wouldn't surprise me if some ROM hack creators thought of this and decided to call their project a mod in order to shoo away negativity and to draw in more players. But again, I'm just speculating here, so take what I just said with a grain of salt. Another reason that I backed up with a discussion in the Overkart 64 Discord server is that ROM hack is simply an outdated term, and using the word mod has a lack of antiquity compared to the term ROM hack. To me, this does make sense. After all, if someone were to say to you, "Oi, that's a load of poppy truffle," you'd probably be weirded out since that's an old British way of saying, "Hey, that's a load of bullshit." I probably just offended every single person in England. I am so sorry. The only thing that bothers me about this reason, though, is that the term ROM hack is still widely used, not only to describe projects under its definition, but to even describe entire communities centered around said projects. Still, I get it. The word mod is much simpler to understand, and it is still technically a correct way of describing all these projects. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you call them. These mods, ROM hacks, and projects are all still fantastic fan-made creations that take an old game and spice it up in new ways. Hey, congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. Let me know of any thoughts in the comments below and feel free to discuss this topic in my Discord server. I really hope you now have a better idea of the differences between mods and ROM hacks. If you enjoyed what you saw, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay goofy out there. Got a little Smash announcery there. Stay goofy out there. Those are two completely different characters. Anyway, thanks, bye.